Recorded at the WNDU 16 News Now studios, this is the South Bend Tribune's Pot of Gold Notre Dame Football Podcast. Here are your hosts, columnist Tom Noie, Notre Dame football beat writer Mike Berardino, and WNDU's Jackson Neill.
It is just after 2 o'clock on Wednesday, September 17th. And guess what? The Notre Dame football team is still looking for its first win in 2025. Coming off the come-from-ahead 41-40 loss to Texas A&M late Saturday night. And that might not have been the worst thing that happened to Jackson Neill on Saturday night.
We're starting this soon.
We're starting right off the bat.
Headline.
Right off the bat.
It's the headline. What are we going to talk about? Consistency. Mike Berardino consistent. Jackson Neill consistent. We're all consistent here on the podcast. I could have started off gone a different direction, but we're going to talk about the smoking golf cart.
Yes,
Before we get into Purdue and Texas A&M, this is what our readers and our listeners need to know: the perils of being a sports coordinator at WNDU and driving a golf cart in the wee hours of Sunday morning that may or may not spontaneously combust right there on the spot.
And it was a lot closer than I think I realized. So if you guys see us around the games, you see that we have golf carts because we're right, next to campus. Mm-hmm. Pre-game, we're driving the golf cart over. Something happened.
Who's driving?
I forget. I was sitting on the back because I was like, you know what? Let somebody else.
Who's driving?
We're not getting into that, Mike. So someone was driving the golf cart.
Mistakes were made.
I was sitting on the back. Some little bump got hit. A piece fell on the ground, and some lady picked it up. Was like, "Hey, here you go," and threw it to me. I'm like, "What is this?"
A muffler?
Asked our engineers, and they're like, "I don't think that's part of the golf cart. You should be fine." Like, okay. Later, after the game, our sports reporter Sabrina Hoover takes the golf cart back out to pick us up.
She's driving.
She's driving now. It is back
again.
She's driving this back.
Sorry, Sabrina.
And something looks a little off with it, right? First of all, when we try to start it back up again, the headlights don't turn back on.
Is it driving like this down the road?
So it is slanted. We put some of our equipment on and we realize that it is
heavy equipment.
Yes, it is completely slanted on the right back wheel. And we're like, okay, something is wrong. So we have to call the other golf cart, one of our camera guys, to come out with the other golf cart. Now it's like 1 a.m.
Air Force 2.
Now it's like 1 a.m. and Jack Sobel, the writer, he's there with us. He's like, what the heck's going on? So the other golf cart comes. I take all the equipment off the golf cart, the broken one, drive behind the working golf cart, like the better one with the headlights on and everything, and with the equipment that Sabrina and everybody is on. I'm the only one in the other golf cart, but I can feel it. Something is wrong. I smell burning rubber, but it's 1 a.m. I got to get this golf cart back. I get it back to the station. I park it in the little carport area. It smells terrible. I open it up where the gas tank is. Smoke. Just smoke everywhere.
Billowing.
Just billowing smoke. And we all look at each other like, that's not good. So we had to park it outside away from the building and other cars in case,
In case it just blew up.
But we're all safe and it's getting looked at today. But I think might be out of commission for that.
Where do you go to get a golf cart looked at? Brought to you by?
I don't know. So that's our engineers deal with that, but I think someone's coming by to look at it. But
mobile.
Yeah,
service.
mobile. I mean, it's a golf cart. It's.
But you're fortunate. We're just so fortunate. We're just glad no one was hurt.
I legitimately, when I opened that thing up, I've never seen a car smoke that much. And it was from a golf cart. It was all coming right from the engine, right where the gas tank is too.
Revolution. Oh, no, it's gas. It's gas powered.
Yeah, that's another thing. Where the smoke was coming was
need to upgrade.
It was right next to where this giant gas tank full of gasoline is.
So will you be riding a bike over there on Saturday then?
I don't know. You're gonna have to stay tuned to find out. Maybe I'll get one of those
little rickshaw.
I could use those little robots, on campus that deliver food. We could just order a couple of them, deliver the equipment over, and walk over.
We have so many other podcasts that cover Notre Dame football, and I guarantee you, not one of them opened up with such a riveting story as this one: the golf cart caper with Jackson Neill surviving after the Texas A&M game. You're not going to get that anywhere else.
You really won't.
At any other podcast or any other thing that deals with Notre Dame football, you come here for these stories.
The golf cart stories.
Let's start with this now. now that we got the golf cart aside, before we talk
I think it's an apt metaphor for what's going on.
it is.
I think it is.
You had to have known it was all going to go sideways after Texas A&M beats Notre Dame 41-40. The botched extra point by Tyler Buckner. The golf cart's going to just
Something else has to get botched.
just forget it's gone. So one question. Let's start with this scenario. Would you rather Notre Dame being 1-1, coming off a win at Texas A&M, but a home loss to Northern Illinois last year, or Notre Dame being 0-2, coming off losses to two ranked teams, Miami and Texas A&M, by a combined 4 points? What scenario would you rather have to work through if you're Notre Dame, Jackson Neill?
I think it's last year. In the moment, I think because it was the first year of the 12-team playoff, we didn't realize. We thought, that was maybe a playoff eliminating game. We didn't realize just how much chaos is going to happen with these new conferences, which is just 12 teams. And obviously, it was you just win out. You were able to win out and make the playoff. I think that the two losses when you're not in a conference is just so hard to work back from.
2 losses to ranked teams is the key too.
I know, but still, it's.
I agree. I absolutely agree with you.
It's the not being in a conference. I think that's really working against Notre Dame right now with 2 losses rather than just 1. Because here Marcus Freeman, 12 guaranteed opportunities. Well, if you're in a conference, you could still work your way back. These would be non-con losses most likely. You could still work your way back and maybe make a conference championship game. Try to get in through that way. There's more room to make statements, and you're likely going to have a better schedule. Whereas for this Notre Dame team, these are quality losses, but look at the rest of the schedule. There's not really spots to make statement wins, and you're not going to get a chance to win a conference title either. So I think last year is actually better just because less losses.
Last year, what do you want, Mike?
Well, I think it's important if we define this exercise by what we knew right after the NIU game. Right after, we don't know how it went afterwards. We don't know how any other teams played, even NIU. Right after, let's not forget, Riley Leonard's left shoulder was a concern that week. There was a report of an MRI. There was wonder if was he even sound enough to go out there. Obviously, by Purdue, then the very next game he showed he was. But there was also the concern of just general self-doubt. It was those things all factor in. I don't think there's any doubt. Well, there's still people need to see it. Need to see C.J. Carr's performance lead to a win. They need to see him play a turnover-free game, a clean game. But all the indications are really encouraging. And they also didn't have as much in-house questioning right after the NIU game. I think they circled those wagons real fast, as I recall, and it was all about block out the noise, one play at a time, going to get back one rep at a time.
One play, one life.
We have what we need.
You want to use that?
Well,
one play, one life?
Yes. But I think that one was a blip, but I still would rather have this scenario than that scenario because NIU was such an unknown quantity and such a shock, and they were 4 touchdown favorites. Now, they're favored in both of these games, a road favorite against a Miami team in a place where Notre Dame hasn't won since '77, and an A&M team that obviously had a lot to prove coming off last year, losing at home. You could always talk yourself into Notre Dame losing either of these games, and 1-1 wouldn't really have even stirred anyone up. But 0-2 somehow has people, existential crisis. But to answer your question, we have a lot more concerns on the defensive side this time. But overall, how a committee will view these things, if Notre Dame goes 10-2, these are pretty justifiable blotches. And remember, Penn State and Ohio State got in last year as at-large teams, not winning their conference championship game with 2 losses. It can be done.
Is it too simplistic to say all Notre Dame needs to do is run the table at 10-2 when they're getting in?
No, they're going to need a little help.
Yeah,
they're going to need a lot of help.
They need.
I don't know about a lot. I don't know about a lot. Yeah?
I think so. I think you look around college football, right? I mean, obviously, it still is just super early, but if you look at the playoff chances, a lot of those ESPN FPI, The Athletic has one. It's just right now Notre Dame's probably usually in those playoff chances run like the 20th or 21st team in the country in terms of those.
What's it mean?
I know, but I
remember those people in that committee. They like snacks and they like sizzle. And
Notre Dame got sizzle.
Notre Dame's always got sizzle. They always are a talker, and they'll talk. They'll have no problem talking themselves into this thing as long as it's a 10-2 team. Now, the path to 10-2 is we'll find out. Let's see how the first couple series go against Purdue. If Ryan Brown takes them down the field and there's a touchdown in the first quarter for the visitors. A team, 26-point underdog, 26.5?
26.5.
Yeah. Then the sense of dread and then the self-doubt and all that. But so we'll get to that later. But it is a fascinating question. It's one that's not, we shouldn't be shocked that they're 0-2 by any stretch.
I'm stunned.
Yeah?
We shouldn't be shocked. Not the fact that they're 0-2 because they've played two really good teams. Miami's really good. Texas A&M finally showed something that it had within its program to come to a place like Notre Dame and win a game the way they were able to win it. I'm shocked because we were all told or maybe sold the fact that this defense was going to pick up right where it left off last year without Golden. And the reason they're 0-2 is it has nothing to do with the offense. Has nothing.
That's the shocking part to me.
It's all a defensive struggle. The defensive linemen don't know what the linebackers are doing. The linebackers don't know what the safeties are doing. The safeties just don't know what they're doing. Like, nobody on that group seems to know what they're doing. They're thinking too much. They're analyzing it too much. Talking with Don Schuler last night saying, we're just not going out there and playing with any sort of force or velocity. Clarity equals velocity. Did you know clarity equals velocity? They're not playing with any of that, and they've had a chance to win both those games defensively. Defensively, when Notre Dame misses the point after and it's 40-34, Texas A&M gets the ball back. Last year, be it whatever team you want to, whatever close game, Georgia Tech, Louisville, whatever game was coming down to the wire. USC. When Christian Gray takes the return back 99 yards on the floor of the Coliseum, which should have been the tying touchdown for USC. Games like that, you looked out there with that defense, and you said, you know what? I don't know how they're getting out of here, but somebody on that group is going to make a play, and they're getting out of there with the win. And usually they did. Penn State, Orange Bowl, go as deep as you want into 2024. Now when you see it, 2025 at Miami, Labor Day Sunday night. At home, Saturday night against Texas A&M. When the other team has the ball, my thought is, I don't know how this thing's going to end, but it's not going to end well for Notre Dame, and it hasn't. And it's all because of what they're not doing, for whatever reason, defensively.
I completely agree. I'm not shocked at the fact that they are 0-2. I'm shocked at the fact that they've scored 64 points in these first two games and are still 0-2. If
they scored 40 points at home and lost.
Like, if I was to think, okay, they're going to be 0-2, it's going to be because, well, they have an inexperienced quarterback room. Like, that takes time to gel. Maybe it was too much to ask to go up against Miami and Texas A&M. That hasn't been the problem. That has not been the problem whatsoever. Yeah, there's been issues here or there, but these have been winnable. Like, they've gotten good enough play from the quarterback position with C.J. Carr to win these football games. And like you said, Tom, it's just the defense letting them down.
They had 12 days off between games to get this thing right. Can they fix this thing in 5 days? 6 days?
I mean, I think with Purdue, it's not going to. There's not Marcel Reed and those wide receivers lining up against you, so you have that working for you. But like, there are still systemic problems with this defense where you're right. I mean, if they didn't get it solved over that bye week, I don't think you can get it done then in a normal week.
Without saying the name of the defensive coordinator, what are the problems with this defense?
Who is the defensive coordinator? Have we heard anything about that lately? It'll be interesting to see.
Well, we haven't heard from him, I'll tell you that.
No, it'll be interesting to see on a Saturday I'll just answer my own question. If Marcus Freeman comes out there with a defensive play call sheet as well,
with a wristband on,
a la Mike Elko. Mike Elko didn't like, as we talked with Travis Brown last week on this show, that A&M went through a season that got him to a bowl game. Didn't like how the bowl game went with USC, and after the year, he brought in a veteran, been around Hemphill, and he kept Jay Bateman, but he also. And now it's kind of murky, as he said. Travis does a great job. But Elko is seen over there, and we saw, he's locked in on the possibilities on defense and not just staying big picture and not just hanging out with analytics Anthony. When maybe sometimes you have to, Anthony does a great job. But you got to, Marcus may have to delve into, may have to roll up the sleeves and not necessarily say, give me that sheet, I'll do it, but just make sure that clearly he's on that channel when they're talking things through, and Chris Ash is a few steps away, and the other defensive guys are all on that sideline. But somebody in the end, with clarity, has to decide, zone or man, so has to decide, are we blitzing? Who are we sending? It can't be Leonard Moore, as was done once the other day. Oddly, he got nowhere on the blitz. But, when they tried a traditional safety blitz with Schuler, it got somewhere. Who should be on the field? Let's see. It's just the substitution patterns have even been goofy.
Too goofy.
No explanation yet for this, but I would, your gut says if Josh Burnham only gets 3 snaps, for a group that's trying to generate pass rush against A&M, and he had 25 in the first game, and he's got a history of ankle problems. Maybe it's something physical. I think that needs to be asked on the Thursday Zoom. But Logan Thomas has had 1 snap. We saw the explosiveness on the punt block, and he nearly blocked a couple of punts last year and got to some quarterbacks last year, at least made them uncomfortable. And he's had 1 defensive snap in 2 games. And so this idea of earning trust, well, maybe you got to earn the trust on the fly. I understand that they want to see it in practice before you get the snaps in the game, but when you're struggling to create havoc, you're struggling to create pressure on a quarterback, and you've got somebody like a Logan Thomas who's explosive, need to see a little bit more of him. And it's good that Kingston Viliamu got 48 snaps. That was a career high, 48 snaps. But look back at it, it's been a long downward trend for him, aside from that Penn State game, ever since he had the a knee injury that was not insignificant, cost him a couple of games basically against Army, cost him 6 snaps in 3 games. It's been harder for him to get to the quarterback, and
there were times in the Texas A&M game when they tried to bring Kingston Viliamu on a blitz, and he blitzed and got through the first wave of offensive defenders or whatever and then he just gets swallowed up, and then he's done. That's great. He had 48 snaps. I think during his media availability on Tuesday, he might have said 48 words.
Some of them know. I agree. He used what Shaq calls the short answer method. But here's what he did say. I asked him why he's not getting to the quarterback, and he said angles. I got to get better angles, and that's part of it. Certainly, remember, Ash talked about, and the players talked about how great it was going to be. Jordan Patello not really able to finish. None of them. Only Bubakar's gotten to a sack, but.
And that was late in Miami game.
Wasn't the idea that they're going to split those ends out a little wider? They're going to be interchangeable, flip-flopping them, no more Viper.
No more Vipers out. Just 2 defensive ends.
What happened to, if it's not broke, what happened to that?
You know what? It's broke and it needs to be fixed, whereas it wasn't broke.
If it wasn't broken then, it's broken now.
It's broken now, and it wasn't broken, and it didn't need to be fixed. But he tried to fix it and do something. Now it's totally broke. Now I don't know what they're doing.
Fine line between stick with what's working and enhance and challenge everything, et cetera. So sometimes you can get lost in your mantras. And perhaps that happened this year because the zone thing, we all were like, yeah, we'll believe they'll play that much zone when we see it.
We saw it.
And we've seen it, and it's not been working. They don't know how to do it.
So Kingston Viliamu talked about angles. Adon Schuler talked about, I don't think it's a scheme thing. I think it's a technique thing. We just have to play together. We're not playing together. We have to be more clear in everything we do and trust the person next to you. I think when you had Xavier Watts on the field, when you had Jack Kaiser on the field, when you had Riley Mills and Howard Cross on the field, you trusted the guy next to you.
Oh, yeah.
That's not going on with this defense, whether it's Adon Schuler not trusting Jalen Stroman, or Adon Schuler not trusting Luke Talich, or Drake Bowen there's no trust on any level of this defense. And until they can fix that, we're not going to see much improvement no matter who they're playing on Saturday.
I like that point because it does feel like it's just not a cohesive defense. It feels like all these three levels working independently of each other, which is not how you're going to win football games, not how you're going to be that togetherness. And I think and then I love that point about, losing that leadership, because if you look at the talent on this defense, it's something that I thought coming into the season, there is still a lot of talent. I mean, in some spots you can maybe argue maybe even a little more talent than there was last year. But there's not that togetherness. There's not that, like you said, trusting the guy next to you. I mean, look at the secondary. There still is Leonard Moore. There still is Christian Gray. There's still Adon Schuler. They have like a bunch of talent. I mean, really out of that secondary, all you lost was Xavier Watts, Benjamin Morrison. They're both great NFL players. Morrison missed a lot of last season. So really you're losing Xavier Watts from that team that was at the national title game. But it just feels like a completely different secondary because of what he offered besides just the play on the field.
And the fact that neither of those two corners have been able to get through a game healthy is very concerning, because Mark Zachary and Dallas Golden are not ready. So once you see Christian Gray leave the field, and he's left it twice now against Miami and again against Texas A&M, when you see Leonard Moore leave the field the way he did when he hobbled off with the right ankle injury against Texas A&M, it's just lighten the offensive coordinator for the other team is lighting up. Like, we've got a true freshman corner coming in. We're going that way, or we're going to go against Carson Hobbs, who has proven he can't. He's just not ready to play that nickel situation. So before we get to Sam King, we'll close the book on Texas A&M. We'll close the book on the smoking golf cart. Here's Purdue. The little series history. Notre Dame leads the all-time series 60-26-2. The Irish are all-time 30-11 at home. They have won 9 straight and 11 of 13 dating back to 2005. The last Purdue win was 2007 at Ross-Ade Stadium, 33-19. And they last met last season. Notre Dame rolls up 578 yards of offense. They led 42-0 at halftime, and they win 66-7. We'll take a break, come right back with Sam King, beat writer, football, men's basketball for Lafayette Journal-Courier. If it's Notre Dame and Purdue week, we're talking Sam King, Purdue football, men's basketball beat writer for the Lafayette Journal and Courier. Sam joins us now to talk everything Boilermakers. We'll start with this. What makes this a better football team than the last time Notre Dame saw Purdue play down there in West Lafayette a year ago?
Well, I think the simple fact that there's no way you could be worse. That team last year was just covering that team. Unfortunately, there were a lot of guys on that team that were enjoyable characters and such, but it was a miserable season to cover. It was a miserable season to watch. And if you are a part of the athletic administration or a part of that coaching staff, I'm sure it was miserable to be a part of. So, quite frankly, that game last year, after the Notre Dame game, it was kind of like, is this who Purdue is, or was this kind of an anomaly catching a team on a bad week coming off that Northern Illinois loss? And come to find out, it was probably a little bit of both. But that season for Purdue, where lopsided losses came for most of those last 11 games.
What is it about Barry Odom that has maybe breathed some new life, some needed life into this Purdue football program?
Yeah, I think Barry Odom is, first of all, nothing against Ryan Walter as the guy, but being a head coach, going from being a defensive coordinator, never having been a head coach, I think he was in over his head a little bit with maybe not so much the coaching aspect, but the other things that come with it, with the hiring of a staff and organizing things of that sort. Barry Odom is a guy who's been a head coach at 2 different stops. He's been a coordinator at Power 4 programs, and he just brought kind of this culture and a stabilization that has been successful at Missouri a little bit. Has been very successful at UNLV, going from having no football history to now it's a program that's winning 9 or 10 games a year. And now you try to implement that at Purdue. And he has what he calls the Purdue way, which was previously the Rebel way and the Tiger way and the Razorback way, or wherever he goes, he just renames it. But the players have really bought into that. And quite frankly, when you have 82 new pieces between freshmen and transfers, you wonder how cohesive that team's going to be. And it was I don't think that's been an issue thus far. I think the team has really come together in that regard. Now it's just a matter of Purdue maybe had some smoke and mirrors because the schedule early on wasn't against high caliber opponents, and you start to think, Purdue might be pretty good. And then USC game last week, you're thinking maybe there's a lot of work to go. So I think this is a big telling week for, is Purdue a different program than last year? I would say yes, but you're going to have to prove it against some high caliber competition like Notre Dame.
Sam, Notre Dame fans might remember Joey Tonona. He really couldn't break through here, and he had a real setback with a car accident, and it was shaken up in that, and concussion, but he's suddenly back and made it all the way back, and he's the Purdue left tackle. And you wonder, 82 new faces, and how 50 of them are transfers or something, like 50, 60. They couldn't find another left tackle. It's Joey Tonona.
Joey Tonona is a guy that last year when he was first kind of getting back into football a little bit, the coaches said you can see the potential. You could see why he had the offers he had coming out of high school, but he had a long way to go. And I think it's taken him some time. He's gotten a lot better. Now, if you look at offensive line grades, he hasn't graded out very well thus far in the season, but I think he probably has shown himself to be a capable tackle for a Big Ten program. Probably not all the way back yet, but it's been a couple of years now of getting his feet wet, and now it's to the point where it's go time. So he's probably the best option, to be honest, at left tackle through what we saw in the spring and then through fall camp.
One guy I want to talk about is Nitro Tuggle, a local kid here from the area. Now he's a receiver transferring over from Georgia. He's been able to have some of an impact already, a couple touchdowns, 123 receiving yards. What have you kind of seen from him and how he's helped out this Purdue passing attack, especially now going against a Notre Dame defense that struggled to defend the pass, to say the least?
Yeah, it's interesting because he came late. He was after the spring, and he was a guy early on in camp. I think he was probably still trying to adjust and learn a playbook and things of that sort. And what happened was Purdue has another guy, coincidentally, he was a transfer from Georgia last year, Denylon Morissette, who was getting all the first-team reps. Denylon Morissette gets hurt before the first game, and that opens the door. Nitro Tuggle gets to play a little bit. He's had a touchdown now in 2 straight weeks, and I think he feels very confident and very comfortable. And on top of that, the quarterback is starting to feel more and more comfortable throwing to him. So Ryan Brown really trusts Nitro Tuggle. He's a guy that clearly has a lot of talent. He could have gone a lot of places. I chose Georgia, and just, as a true freshman last year, didn't get a lot of run. He had, I think, maybe 4 catches all season, was a special teams guy, and gotten some legal trouble with a speeding ticket, so forth and so on, and ends up saying he wanted to come back closer to home, and ends up at Purdue. And it's been kind of a good fit for him because it was a place that he could get on the field and showcase his skills as a sophomore versus, maybe some other programs. If he would have transferred to, he'd be in the same situation he was at with Georgia.
Purdue made it look relatively easy in its first 2 games. They beat Ball State 31-0 in the opener on August 30th, and then second week of the season they beat Southern Illinois 34-17. Then they lose to USC, like you talked about, 33-17. What were some of the aspects of the USC game where you thought, okay, there's some positives to take out of the first 2 weeks of the season, but seeing the uptick in competition, Purdue's going to struggle in these types of areas?
Yeah, man. Chunk plays, for one. USC, well, to a degree, Southern Illinois, the first 2 drives marched downfield and scored touchdowns, and that was a little concerning to see an FCS team just kind of shred your defense, but USC did much of the same. Big plays. Purdue cannot get off the field on 4th down. USC went 4-4 on 4th down, didn't punt the entire game. The silver lining, I guess, for Purdue is it kept holding USC to field goals. I think USC attempted 5 field goals in that game, so it kept Purdue within striking distance. But the defense has yet to generate a turnover. That's something that didn't happen over the final, I want to say, 4 games last season. So now a streak of 7 straight games where Purdue has not had a takeaway. And that was really kind of the difference in that game because Purdue throws 3 interceptions in the red zone. One of them is a pick six by a 360-pound defensive tackle.
Yes.
One's in the end zone, and then one's another one down inside the 5, but Purdue was probably around the 20 when that pass was thrown. But those are backbreakers, because even through all of that, Purdue had the ball down, I think, 30-17 with a chance to go down and make it 30-24. And then you really put the pressure on USC. Purdue's at home. It ends up being a night game because it rained half the day and the lightning and all of that. So Purdue just seemed to kind of, and the way Barry Odom worded it after was Purdue would build momentum and then never capture it. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was kind of a telling point of the game. Like, here's the make or break moment, and every time Purdue didn't make the play. And that's the difference. Maybe the next step in the evolution of this football program to compete at that level is you've got to make the plays in the clutch.
I want to follow up on that 360-pound man thing, because I still, you saw it live and you've done your second watch, third watch. Was no one pursuing this man for 70 yards? I don't know what his 40 time is, Jamal Jarrett, but I'm trying to think. I mean, you think of like Leon Lett and people like that, but they, maybe you go 30 yards that big, 40, the big man touchdown, everybody enjoys that. 70 yards, plus they were in the game at that point. So, like, who gets singled out for just falling down? And it doesn't. That's normally the one where the quarterback runs him down pretty easily and pushes him out of bounds. What happened?
Yeah, so what happened there was Ryan Brown was going to get sacked, probably should have just eaten the sack and been in a 3rd and 15 or 3rd and 20 or whatever it would have ended up being, and you live to kick a field goal, I guess, if you can't pick up the first down. But instead, he tries to make a play, the ball gets batted by the guy attempting to sack him, and there's just a house-sized human sitting there that the ball lands in his hands, and I think all of the fast guys on offense were far downfield, who had to make up, 30 yards of territory and just didn't have the timing to do it. Somebody almost caught him right at the end, but he crossed the goal line. Jamal Jarrett crossed the goal line as he's holding the ball out, and that's when one of the receivers finally caught up to him, and it was just too late. It was a pretty deflating play for Purdue. It felt like that was kind of the backbreaker and the moment where we were all said, okay, we can start putting the finishing touches on our instant post at the end of the game.
According to his high school huddle, 5.25 40 time. That was in high school. So
it's apparently significantly faster than Joey Tonona. Not to pick on him, but he would have had a chance to run down that man. He's 55 pounds lighter.
Exactly. Sam, one thing I want to ask you about too is the Purdue offensive line. One thing that Notre Dame has not been able to do a lot this season is get into the backfield over tackles for loss, for sacks, just general disruption. What have you seen from this Boilermakers offensive line so far?
Well, I think Notre Dame might be playing the right opponent if you want to start putting some of those stats together. This offensive line, I'm not really sure how good it is. It hasn't looked great even against Ball State. Purdue struggled to run the ball, which is against a MAC team. You kind of think that's a team you can impose your will against. And to Ball State's credit, it did some good things, but and then last week we really saw the struggles where Purdue couldn't pick up big chunk plays. The running game hasn't really been there, and with a running back like Devin Mockabee, you feel like that should be an area of strength. And then some of the other guys that Purdue has, I think Purdue's done a good job of kind of trying to hide the lack of talent on the offensive line, maybe with some quick passes and things of that sort, but it's a struggle. Ryan Brown has been running for his life at times, not been a lot of running room, and I really think that that's an area of concern going into this game. Is just, it's to the point now where we're asking the offensive coordinator and the head coach, is this a week where you change up the offensive line? Because Purdue has run the same 5 linemen out there every significant snap the first 3 games, and starting to think if it hasn't happened now, this is probably the best 5 guys that Purdue has. But if that's the best 5 that Purdue has, Purdue might be in trouble moving forward.
How much motivation down there this week has 66-7 been, if any?
I don't think, first of all, there's so many new players that
Right.
The team all year long has been kind of like, listen, these guys weren't a part of that. Some of them were, very few, but Purdue has tried to distance itself very, for good reason, from last year's team. But it truly is totally different. I wrote this a couple weeks ago. Like, we need to stop comparing this Purdue team to last year's Purdue team, because they're just, the personnel's different. Every coach except one is different. There's nothing really similar about the two teams other than the fact that it says Purdue on the uniform. So I don't think it's a huge motivation because of the score last year. I think it's more of a motivation of, hey, here's a challenge against a team that's lost its first two games, Purdue's first road game. And I'm not saying Purdue is going to go there and win, but if Purdue can go there and compete, I think that's maybe showing fans this is the next phase. Like, okay, last year Purdue lost this game by 59 points or whatever it was, and now it competed. There were a lot of people who weren't happy with a loss to USC, but I think the fans were like, okay, Purdue was in that game in the fourth quarter, and that's probably progress compared to where it was.
What about the Purdue special teams, which I'm just glancing through my Pro Football Focus, and they have a glittering 90.2 special teams rating, tied for fourth in the nation. The run blocking, the pass blocking, as alluded to, not good. But who should people be watching out for in the special teams?
Well, Purdue invested in special teams, in who full-time national special teams coach of the year, I believe, at Virginia Tech and at UNLV, and he's getting paid almost like a top-notch coordinator. So Barry Odom has signaled that as like, hey, that is an area of importance. Barry Odom has called him the best special teams coach in all of football. Wasn't specifying college or NFL. He just said in all of football. And then you bring in Jack McAllister, who was a really good punter at Washington last year. He's got a great average this year. He's helped a little bit by a 68-yard punt at the end of the game last week, where USC moved out of the way and let roll for eternity. But before that, the punting numbers were really good. I think one thing that you got to look out for, especially in a game like this, is James Shebus is known to kind of throw in a wrinkle or a trick play or something when it's least expected. And we've all been kind of waiting for that. We've asked about it. Clearly, they're not going to tell us when they're going to do it, but I think there's things, maybe up Purdue's sleeve that that can be in a game that's close, maybe not this week, but in a game that's close that Purdue has to win. That could be the edge that Purdue has. Spencer Porath has been really, really good kicking field goals this year. I think he's 4 for 4, and he was a guy who had some misses last year, and people were wondering, is he the guy? So special teams is definitely probably an area where Purdue most weeks might have an advantage. Purdue practice special teams more than I've ever seen a team there practice, as we were able to watch all of fall camp. There was designated parts of each practice just for special teams work, and it was pretty phenomenal to watch how it was run and organized, kind of almost as important as running the offense and the defense.
Hence, top 4, tied for fourth. I'm glad I asked.
Honestly, I'm all out.
Jackson's got the mix board going, and he's very shaken by a golf cart that nearly burned up on him the other day. He's still shaking.
I'll end with this. It might be the most important question that we ask you. How in the world did you spend 3 hours and 15 minutes during that delay the other day? The delay for the USC game.
Weather stories perform online.
The delay lasted 3 hours and 15 minutes. And from the game box, the game lasted 3 hours and 16 minutes.
Right. Yeah, there was a lot of downtime there.
That's 6 hours and 31 minutes at Ross-Ade Stadium.
Well, it's everybody would book a trip to West Lafayette, Indiana. That's where you'd want to go and sit in the Ross-Ade press box. But I'm working on this story on the last Big Ten team, Purdue, which is your anniversary, which probably tells you where Purdue football has been for the last quarter century. But I have a lot of interviews to transcribe, and that weather delay did me wonders because I was able to knock out some of those. So that was great for me. Wasn't great for a lot of other people, but I was like, hey, I've been given this opportunity. Let's knock out some work. And we really were kind of in the dark. There wasn't a lot of weather updates, unfortunately. So there wasn't much that we could do except sit there and wait.
Looking at Notre Dame, at the fact that they're 0-2, does this Saturday's game offer a little hope to Purdue that they, like you said, not necessarily they're going to come up here and win, but maybe be a little bit more competitive against a Notre Dame team that's that's really back on its heels and 0-2 to start the season?
I think probably last year this was more of a hope because Northern Illinois is a team Purdue's probably saying, hey, we're better than and then we saw what happened. But I think that Purdue's pretty self-aware and knows that the two teams that Notre Dame has played are better than the three teams that Purdue has played so far. So the coaching staff, at least, and the players that they allow us to talk to are pretty realistic about, hey, this isn't like some pushover opponent who's just your typical 0-2 team. Notre Dame is a team that still probably is capable of getting into the playoffs and quite frankly has to win this game in order to keep those playoff hopes alive. So there's not any thinking that this is going to be a cakewalk or a chance to maybe get your foot in the door against a team that's struggling.
That's Sam King, covers everything Purdue for the Lafayette Journal and Courier. Sam, appreciate your time. Safe travels up here Saturday. It's time to speak up, and you'd think if Notre Dame is 0-2, having lost to Miami and Texas A&M, we'd have a ton of people wanting to speak up. Guess what? Nobody wants to speak up. Nobody. Wow. They don't want to ask a question. They don't want to make a comment. We had 3 questions submitted to Mike Berardino.
Yeah, you're going to use one?
I'm going to use all 3 of them.
All right.
There we go.
All 3 of them from a reader, from a listener, from
Bob Haas.
Who's Bob Haas? Do you know who Bob
Everybody
Haas
knows
is?
Bob Haas.
Yeah, it's Bob.
He's asked stuff before. He's a loyal. He emails me occasionally, and he's got a lot of good points. And I thought these were interesting questions.
I like the questions.
And they're so interesting that we're going to use all 3 of them.
All right.
All right. First speak up question. I'll just throw this out there. You guys can fight over who goes first. Why not use backup quarterback Kenny Minchey in the Wildcat formation?
I don't have a good answer for why not, honestly. I mean, I think if the thinking is probably just we want to be using, like, Jeremiah Love's a better runner, obviously use him. Don't really, we want to show that we're confident in CJ Carr, not be giving Kenny Minchey maybe some snaps. But honestly, at this point, I don't really have a good answer.
Oh, well, I think Marcus did talk about this. He was asked about Minchey, and it's a good suggestion. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked to see a goal line type package or something. But Marcus just talked about how a couple of things. CJ's more maneuverable in a goal line situation. We've already seen he's got a touchdown run on a draw. The idea of the Wildcat seemed to have come from take the gray area away from CJ Carr and the RPOs occasionally and let the ball go directly to Jeremiah Love. I remind you, fellas, way back in early August after Love
seems like a lifetime ago. And
Jaywan Sider talked to us about how he had been teaching everyone to read the defense, his running backs, read the defense pre-snap. I said, well, don't be surprised if you see Wildcat because Penn State, where Sider came from, used Tyler Warren, the tight end, quite a bit out of the Wildcat last year to great effect. And I don't think they're done with the Wildcat. So the idea of the Wildcat, yes, it's sometimes going to ask C.J. Carr. Rarely it's going to be asked to maybe block someone. Eventually, if they don't teach Love or Price to flip the ball out to C.J. if he's completely uncovered, because if they really try to change the box math and bring that corner in and C.J.'s just standing over there, hoping it goes well, they're going to have to flip the ball out to him. Not unthinkable. I look back and said, I don't know if this was Wildcat or not, but I was looking back at the Desmond Ridder history at Cincinnati, and he had 2 receptions in his final year with Mike Denbrock as the OC and Gino Gadulli over there. So maybe there's a scenario where that happens. But I like the idea. I know it didn't really work until that 4th down, the final one, but I like the concept of it. I like the idea I liked how they executed it. I liked how they waited. A lot of times you give the defense plenty of time, but it was very late on the final one when CJ actually split out. In fact, he only got to a slot position. So as much as Kenny Minchey could add a dynamic that would be tantalizing, you're just opening a can of worms that you don't want to open, even with everything going well for CJ. And so I think they're going to go this way with it first.
We've got enough can of worms opened already.
There's enough.
Than to open another can with Kenny Minchey coming in. I think, why not Kenny Minchey in the Wildcat? Because the Wildcat, I think, is designed to get the ball into the hands of Jeremiah Love as often as possible. and not Kenny Minchie. Like maybe save a special goal line package or whatever you might run with Kenny Minchie. But the Wildcat is to feature Jeremiah Love and just get him going. I'd just like to see him, if they're going to use it, to be a little bit more effective than what they used it against Texas A&M. So.
Not having CJ Carr, having had make seal blocks on the edge, that's where you're losing me with the Wildcat. Is like
run it between the tackles.
Yeah,
right.
When you start bouncing it outside and you're expecting Carr to actually deliver a solid block, you can't be asking your quarterback to do that.
Because you know what's going to happen when Jeremiah Love cuts it outside and CJ Carr is trying to make a block. Jeremiah Love is going to try to run over him.
Jump over him.
Jump over.
He's going
to jump over the starting quarterback. Like he jumps over everybody else.
So that's where it loses me.
There's your Wildcat talk. Hey, Jackson Neill, how about a safety blitz?
I like the idea. I think the reason they haven't probably done it is because we've seen the coverage and they just don't. They're just scared to not, to leave someone like Carson Hobbs or someone like that without help with the safety, or if Leonard Moore's going out for a couple of plays, or if Christian Gray's out and you have Zachary coming in. They're scared to just let them be on an island. I think that's probably why there hasn't been a safety blitz. But if you're going to have Moore and Gray out there, you're going to need to, at this point, with the lack of pressure, you're going to need to trust them at certain points to bring a safety out and blitz just to get something on a quarterback.
I think Schuler had one of those. And I think Tay Johnson's athletic ability suggests that he's a guy who can get to the quarterback faster than anybody they have on the back line, and that's the whole point of the safety blitz. I mean, you're going to put people on an island. They're out there already, but you're basically saying you got to stick with those guys. The 5-yard area is complete where you can actually get hands on the receiver has not been used by Notre Dame very well at all, and they pay lip service to it. They've done it now 2 games. I think they're letting the speed of those receivers psych them out. But if they can get that legal chuck within the 5 yards, they certainly aren't afraid to grab downfield when it comes to it. Both teams are very grabby downfield, and that's why I saw a lot of laundry. But I think Tay Johnson in a safety blitz would have a great chance to get home.
Guess who one of the South Bend Tribune's 4 to watch on Saturday is?
Tay Johnson.
There you go.
All right.
How about that?
All right, good call.
So Tay Johnson. Why not more safety blitzes? According to what, given what Don Schuler said yesterday, I don't know if these safeties know what they're doing to the point where they can go and just blitz. So maybe simplify the defensive plan and then turn the safeties loose. How about that?
That's a concerning answer. Just
he mentioned lack of focus in his first answer. He said just a lack of focus. That's the first one. I understand this idea of clarity. I understand this idea. Well, we're uncertain. We need to communicate better. But that's the only player I've heard mention, and he's noticed it. I don't think he's saying he's unfocused. But if there's a sense of lack of focus, well, that's a breakdown that has to be pointed out in real time, in practice, in games, and that can cost you a game. Obviously, maybe that's some of what's been happening.
It's also maybe, since we're on this subject, he talked about how they spend all week against the scout team working against a set number of plays or specific number of plays. Okay, the other team is going to do this, and they're going to do this, and they're going to do that, and they're going to do that, and this is how we're going to counter it. And then when they get into the game, Don Schuler said other teams are doing things totally different, and it's almost like they're not prepared to make that schematic adjustment, and that's why you get this for the people watching us. Like, how many times have you seen the defensive backs with their hands in the air, like, or pointing at somebody? Motioning?
I think at one point A&M threw a receiver outside and they were pretty close to snapping the football. And I didn't see a DB over there, and then eventually someone was like, "Oh, go, go, go!" And it was like, are they literally not going to cover this guy?
Right. So a lot of just
great case in point was, and it did not lead to points only because a long field goal faded at the end. But at the end of the first half, 6 seconds to go after the crazy clap snap.
The disappointing.
All right. So, but still 6 seconds to go, and you remember how far the entire back line was, as though there was 1 second to go, and they could only throw downfield in a Hail Mary scenario. Instead, they ran the ball, got a first down into field goal range. Time, as clock was stopped, time to go. Those guys were 30 yards downfield, and if that was the call, you have to go get a quality control on that. How did that happen? How could that happen? Because any of us could have flipped it out to any receivers uncovered, and they could have gotten probably 15 yards in that time, whatever time they needed to. There was no one to. They were unguarded completely. It was 30 to 40 yards downfield. It was the ultimate prevent defense.
Last question, speak up question from our man Bob Haas. Jackson, what is the vibe around South Bend?
So I'll tell a story to answer this question. A little anecdote.
Stories.
Mike was there for this story, so he'll know what I'm talking about. After the game, we're going down in the elevator because the press elevator wasn't working, and the press it was filled up or whatever. So we tried to get another one. And the elevators in the press box are also right next to the suites where there's, some fans that watch the game.
Had a few cocktails.
Especially anyone can do it at Notre Dame Stadium. And these are also fans, that I'm guessing, give money to the program, things along that line. The elevator was full, and there was one very impassioned fan saying...
Just one?
Well, people were agreeing. He was the one kind of screaming, and everyone was kind of agreeing with him along the ideas of this would not be allowed back in the 80s, and why are we giving money, and why are now
he wasn't that old either. He was probably in his 40s.
Yeah, I didn't really get it. I was just kind of it was really packed in. I didn't really get a didn't really get a look.
But 40s, that's ancient to Jackson.
Yeah, I was like, that's old. But
this old guy.
But anyway, Mike, you could back me up on this. It was very impassioned, and I think that it just everyone was kind of like agreeing with the guy. And
he said, I believe the kicker was everyone was chuckling and nodding. I don't think everyone agreed with his idea that he was going to go find some people and kick some butt.
That part, not that. Yeah. No, there was I'm not going to quote this speech for word for word because there was some outside, but just the overall feeling, just really disappointed. It's just like there's just the level of disappointment, just wondering what's going on, just not understanding how a game like that happens. I think
a year ago we sat here, and I think that most of the people around South Bend were stunned at the fact that they lost to a team like Northern Illinois, given what they had done the previous week down in College Station. Now it's just like you're almost resigned to the fact that here we are, it's September 17th, and the only way Notre Dame football is going to get back to the college football playoff this season is to go and do the same thing that they did last year, and that's run off 10 straight wins. So it's like I don't know if this team in this program, given where it is right now, has that in them as we sit here the third week of the season, to where you're just like it's just more I don't know if it's disappointment, disillusionment, confusion as to, man, when this thing flips, and maybe it's just it just happens at Notre Dame because we cover Notre Dame. But when stuff like this flips around here, it flips in a hurry,
very fast.
All of a sudden, they're playing for that. They're playing for the national championship on January 19th, January 20th, and by not even September 20th, it's scramble mode and fight your way out and try to go win 10 straight games. So it's kind of like, how does this and why does this always happen to Notre Dame? Which was the point of my column on Saturday night, was just when you think that they've built up enough equity to be a team like an Alabama or like an Ohio State or like a Georgia, where you can expect them to not sail through the regular season, but handle the regular season and get to a postseason without any drama. We've got drama coming at us left and right.
Freeman 1-3 in home openers. I think a lot of people are just like, "What is that?" I don't have an answer. What is that?
I do. The road schedule. You stop playing these road games. Mm-hmm. Open at home against the Texas A&M, and then play some sort of lesser opponent in week 2, and then start going on the road like they did a couple years ago when they had to go to North Carolina State and play the Wolfpack and sit through the weather delay and challenge yourself that way. I think the way this schedule has been laid out, the way it's been constructed, you're going to get quality opponents. And hats off to Notre Dame for playing Miami down in Miami the first week and playing Texas A&M the second week. But for the long-term health of where you want this program to be, I don't know if that's always going to be in your best interest.
I'll push back and say it's going to be harder than ever to push those into the meat of the season, because USC, that's the whole crux of it. They don't want to come here in October anymore. They'll play them in Labor Day weekend in Rome, as we're hoping, but not. They'd rather,
put in the Coliseum,
really
the real Coliseum
in October. Yes, yes, it's that's going to be a problem. I hear you. I mean, if it's good enough for the SEC to, I mean, so many the sport is just filled with these 30, 40-point spread openers, these glorified exhibitions, and it's always been a problem for college football. So these intersectional matchups and these exciting early season matchups are what we want more of. But Clemson's 2-loss already, and they I'll tell you, Clemson's Dabo, his handling of the 2 losses so far against Georgia Tech and LSU, he's already whining, basically. If you don't want me around anymore, I'll go. I'm not going to the beach. I'll go somewhere else.
I'm 55 years old. I'm not going to the beach.
So he gave that talk, and I wasn't hearing that from Marcus Freeman. I was hearing basically a lot of echoes of what we heard after NIU. They've done it so recently. Let's see if they can do this again. But it's all laid out for them. It really is, and it just takes. It'll be. You're talking about how quickly things can flip. If Purdue Purdues. And doesn't. Well, then Notre Dame will come off, and then that's when that selective amnesia kicks in, and you're like, Tyler Buckner. What do you mean? What happened to Tyler Buckner? He's been solid, and et cetera, et cetera. So it's a couple of these now. Arkansas, we're going to talk next week. I'm assigning them a victory against Purdue. We're going to do that in a second. Let's see what Arkansas brings.
Speaking of assigning victory, you know what time it is, Jackson?
Is it time for Pot of Bold?
It's Pot of Bold time.
Pot of Bold.
Easiest segment of the show for some people. One hot take, one score prediction. I'm going first.
Whoa!
I'm going first. How about this?
All right.
Here's my hot take. At some point on Saturday, Notre Dame is trailing Purdue.
3-0.
Stay tuned.
Great special teams.
And my score prediction, Notre Dame 41, Purdue 14.
I'm going to go next because I don't want to get usurped because sometimes
we usually
have the
have
same.
Yeah, we usually are thinking.
Yeah, so I'm going to just jump in there. 38-17 Notre Dame, and the misplaced, forgotten Jaden Greathouse finds the end zone for the first time in the year, maybe twice.
Okay. Look at you. You've been reading my 4 to watch, haven't you?
No, I haven't. Wavelength, telepathy.
Great minds think alike. All right,
Jackson, what do you got?
All right, I'm going to go on the defensive side. I think Irish get 3+ sacks. Chris Ash just wants to get the narrative of not getting pressure on the quarterback changed. Purdue can't protect the quarterback. Run a couple blitzes, get a couple sacks, 3+. Notre Dame wins 31-13. Just kind of, they win big, but they don't cover. You still just don't feel great coming out of it.
They need a win. We'll see if they get it. We'll be back this time next week to talk Notre Dame, Purdue. Hopefully, maybe not talk about Jackson's golf cart and preview Arkansas. That and so much more. We have no idea what's coming next week on the Pot of Gold.
This has been the South Bend Tribune's Pot of Gold podcast, your home for insightful Notre Dame football coverage and analysis.